So yeah, hey everybody. My name's Rico, and I'm going to be doing Crash Bandicoot 3. It's going to be 105%, which is full completion, so I'm going to collect all 25 crystals, 45 gems, 30 gold relics, and 5 power-ups. Okay, now I can do it again. Can we get the game turned up a little bit more for me? Yeah, it's very faint. Maybe a little bit more. This should be fine. I'll just turn myself down a bit. Yeah, that should be good. Yeah. Yep. Also, on my commentary, I have Stump with me, so he'll help me cover anything that I miss, because there's a lot going on in this run.
Hello.
All right. I'm going to Death Abuse to set up a cycle at the start of the run. And I'll count down from 3 when I'm ready. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so normally in a Crash 3 speedrun, at the very beginning when I enter this level, I would be turning off the sound effects. All of these blue time twister cutscenes get skipped if the sound effects are set to 0, but because this is a marathon and I think the game is more entertaining with them on, I'm just gonna keep them on. It loses about a minute to minute 15, but the run is completely identical otherwise, so it shouldn't affect any strats. Yeah, so this is the first level that we're doing. This is Under Pressure. This is the first of many, many vehicle levels. Crash 3 deviates from the first 2 games in that it adds a lot of non-platforming, just to, you know, more variety and such. It's not entirely loved by everybody in the fandom, but I've grown to appreciate these levels just because they add some spice to the run. So even though I said this is a 105% run, you might be wondering, well, why is he not breaking any crates? This game also introduced time trials, which means every level we're going to have to do twice. So any level where we can get a gem and a relic at the same time, we're going to do so in something that's called a 1 cycle. So in Under Pressure, I'm going to do that because just getting all the crates during the time trial saves having to go out of the way to get the crystal at the same time as the crates that are below it.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can I read off the donations?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so during the break, I have to make sure I can be heard. Here. There we go. Okay, so during the break, we received a very generous $1,000 donation from Small Ant saying good tournament. Obviously referencing the Minecraft lockout tournament. Thank you so much, Small Ant, not only providing the $2,000 prize pool, but also that insane donation. Thank you so much. And we just got a $200 donation from Jamie the Bunny with a comment, Joler, $200, and they entered the Nintendo Switch giveaway due to the $25 minimum donation. Thank you both so much. Insanely generous, going to a great cause. And yeah, let's get back to the Crash.
Thank you for that, Jamie. Jamie is one of my moderators in my stream and is a community member for many Crash and Spyro speedrunners, and just a very generous, kind person, so we really appreciate that. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be doing the time trial, which I'm in the process of right now, and I'm breaking every crate while also trying to beat the gold relic time of 1 minute and 17 seconds. This one is actually like kind of tight, and this level is very, very heavy on cycles, so it's really important that I don't mess anything up here.
The time trials do vary a good amount in how much room they have for you to do things like this.
Yeah. Alright, this should be fine. We're cutting a little close, but we should be okay. Yeah, very barely got that. This is the one level where the sound effects might have messed me up a little bit. So when the sound effects are off, the cutscenes just don't load at all. So I don't even have to manually skip them, and because of that, I don't lose any of the time it takes to manually skip them, and that also affects the cycles, because Crash 3 runs on global cycles, so as long as the game is not loading or paused, the cycles are moving, and that extra time that I had to deal with just with the cutscene might have made that a bit tighter than I wanted it to be, but I didn't fail it, so that's what matters. All right, so this is Orient Express. This is the introduction to one of the more beloved aspects of Crash 3, which is Purah the Tiger. Kind of just a successor to the Polar Bear in Crash 2. They refined the movement for it. So holding R1 or circle will allow me to charge indefinitely like this, which is an improvement from the Polar Bear where you can only charge for short bursts. Okay, I missed that crate, so I'm gonna just do a quick death abuse. You can one cycle this level, and that's the backup strat normally in runs if you miss a crate, but it's very tight. So in like a resetless setting, I don't feel comfortable doing it. I'll just take the time loss for death abusing. Another small thing to note, and this will matter more in the time trial, is that every time you jump, you save, I think, a frame. So it's technically optimal to, constantly jump when you can. Right, look at this really adorable cuddle. If I do everything right, that is the only time in the entire run you will see it. There is a skip in this level called Cuddle Skip. If you get enough airtime at the end when you jump off the huge cliff, you can get enough momentum upon landing that you just land in the portal before the cuddle animation plays. It's kind of tough to do in Orient Express, so I might not get it here, but I will definitely attempt it. You can also get it while also doing the box pass, but it is very easy to miss the gem if you do that, and I just didn't want to risk it. It is also really important that I leave this time trial with 2 masks. Masks are a very critical part of the Crash 3 speedrun, and conveniently in 105%, almost every time trial gives you 2 of them. So it's the route is very flexible because if I ever take a stray hit somewhere, I can just go into a time trial and recover them. But ideally, we'll just not have to deal with that. Let's go for this. Yeah, okay, that has not been working for me recently. If I did it right, I would have landed on the upper part of the wall, and that would have given me enough height to enter the portal. There is another Tiger level in Warp Room 2 where the Cuddle Skip is significantly easier, so hopefully we'll see it there. Or if you're a Cuddle fan, then hopefully I'll fail it twice there too. All right, so with those 2 vehicle levels out of the way, and with 2 masks leaving this time trial, we'll be going into the first platforming level in the run, which is Toad Village. And this is where we'll really get to first see the movement tech in this game, which gets pretty crazy. So you have your normal slide spin, that's all right. But this, it might not look like it, but I'm actually glitching the movement right now. This is called the neutral slide jump, and it becomes really fast when you have a triple mask like this. So the way it works is that if you do a slide and then you go neutral on the D-pad, so you just let go of all input, and then you do a jump, the momentum of the slide gets carried into the jump. And when you have a triple mask in this game, your slide becomes much faster. So the optimal movement in this game is to have triple mask and doing neutral slide jumps. So that's just the name of the game for movement in the platforming levels. Another more subtle but still very important piece of the movement tech is zigzagging. So in the Crash games on PS1, if you are sliding or you're in the air, it is faster to alternate diagonals than it would be to hold a straight direction the entire time. So during each of these slides, I very quickly try to input like a left diagonal and then a right diagonal, or an up and down diagonal if I'm moving to the side. It's very subtle, but it does add up over the course of the entire run, so I do try to use it where I can, and it is very important for some of the later game levels. One of the biggest things with how important that neutral slide jump is that it actually almost entirely supersedes the running shoes power-up that you get for beating the final boss. And so we don't get the running shoes until the very end of the run because it would require fighting the final boss twice and watching the credits, which are like 3 minutes long. So having a movement tech like the neutral slide jump that's just as fast as the running shoes is very, very beneficial for this run because it lets us get these relics really early because the devs clearly intended you to go for the higher tier relics, the golds and platinums, after you have the running shoes, and we just don't need them. With that said, this is the first of many jet ski levels making waves. Not really too much to say about this level. It really just hold X and break crates. So if there's any other donations, feel free to read them.
We have $25 from Bo Cubbies, who says, "Good luck on the run, Rico. Do the speedrun strats also, and be sure to do some swag strats."
I'll try, Cubbies. Thank you. I guess I will mention the ramps in these levels, combined with the way the waves fluctuate, can become very annoying. It's not so much an issue in this level, but it will be an issue in many of the later jet ski levels.
There's some particularly bad ramps in some of the other jet ski levels.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure at some point in this run I will miss a crate just because I go over it or under it because of a ramp. So we'll be going right back to making waves for the relic. Most of the gold relics in this game are pretty reasonable as long as you're not, just sitting around doing nothing. This is one of the gold relics that is actually pretty tight. So gonna try and not miss a lot of time crates because of that. I guess I should mention also in regards to the relics, there are 3 tiers of relics. There are the Sapphire relics, which are basically if you do a time trial and you just finish the level, you'll probably get the Sapphire relic. There are Gold relics, which are the middle tier ones where you went pretty fast, but it wasn't too crazy. And then there's the Platinum relics, which are basically you're a speed demon. And for the 45th and final gem to spawn in the warp room, I have to have 30 gold relics or higher, so I cannot collect any sapphires at any point in this run. If I collect a sapphire, I have to do the time trial again. And then any platinums I get are just, bragging rights, I guess. But there are some relics that will be guaranteed to be golds just because of the strats I do.
There is nothing extra completion-wise for getting all platinums, only for all golds.
Alright, so 52 seconds on that last time crate, we should be fine here. The gold here is 58, So I only got one of the 2 masks in this level, so to replenish my masks before doing the last level in this warp room, I'm going to do the Toad Village relic again. Toad Village is one of the levels that you can leave behind if you want. The routing in this game is so flexible and there's so many options that there are, some runners just choose to only have 2 or 3 splits for the entire 2-hour run. I'm currently one of those runners. I've been using a splits file that only has 2 splits. So when you have that flexibility, I could have saved Toad Village for if I needed it later in the run, but there is one level about halfway through that has a risk of a crash, and I have a backup save in case that happens, but that backup save has Toad Village completed, so I'm just going to do Toad Village now to be safe. Also of note, I almost never get that crash, but tonight would be the perfect time for me to get it. So even though neutral slide jumping is the fastest movement, it's not always the correct option. If you're going down hills or if you're in a position where you don't want to commit to the full slide jump, it is oftentimes better to just do a zigzagging slide spin. So you'll see me throw a lot of those out. That's one of the things I really like about the movement tech in this game is that, in Crash 1 and Crash 2, the movement tech in those games is definitely good, and I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying them at all because I love them just as much. But a lot of times you have like one really powerful option and you go for that. Crash 3, the movement tech is very nuanced and it requires a lot of knowledge of knowing what to pick. Also, I got button glitch in a level where it's completely useless. Stump, do you want to explain button glitch?
Sure. So if you spin at the same frame where you hit the level entrance portal, you maintain control of Crash, and you can still move around the warp room. And that includes stepping on other buttons. So if you're entering a level that you're going to do the time trial for, if you do the button glitch and you go onto a different level, you will go into the first level, but with the time trial times of the other level. So you can do your time trial and be compared against artificially high times.
Yeah, so for example, if I had gotten the button glitch in Toad Village and I had stepped on the time trial, or if I had stepped on the button for this level, Boneyard, I would be doing Toad Village, but I would be comparing to the times for Boneyard. And Boneyard has significantly higher time trial times, so it would make getting a platinum relic, just ridiculously easy. Of course, I'm going through a crystal pass of Boneyard, so that just doesn't matter. Button glitch is not a necessity at any point in the run. There are no strats that are impossible without it, but it is definitely a nice, cushion for making mistakes. There is a single one cycle in the run that, while it is not impossible without button glitch, the movement required for it is at a threshold that I am not capable of yet. So that one I will need to get button glitch for, and if not, then I'll just have to do the level twice. But that is commonly considered the hardest one cycle of the entire run, so it's something generally only like the highest level runners go for.
During the bonus back there was another piece of glitch movement, the glitch high jump, used to get on top of those floating metal crates. That was done by spinning right after jumping.
Yeah, in Crash 2 and 3, if you do a sliding or a crouching jump and you spin shortly afterwards, you get a bit more height, and that will come up very subtly at many points in the run, and sometimes very blatantly. So this is the first boss fight. This is Tiny. It's a very straightforward boss, I feel. He's gonna jump around and try to step on me, and I just have to avoid him until he just sticks his fork into the ground and spin him. I'm not supposed to be able to dodge the lions like this. There's just a blind spot in the top left corner that lets you just bypass that phase entirely. Fun fact, they kept that oversight in the Insane Trilogy and even threw in an Easter egg where if you do this, the audience starts throwing cheese at you. So I think it's really cool that the developers of the remake just left in little things like that for speedrunners.
That was a nice touch.
All right, and that is Tiny down, and he's going to give us our first power-up, which is the Super Body Slam. This power-up is pretty useless.
The body slam at the top of the glitch high jump in the Boneyard bonus is the only time we see the non-super body slam.
Yeah. All right, so that's everything down in the first warp room except for the time trial for Boneyard. We're going to have to come back later for that, because you may have noticed when I was going through Boneyard, there was like a little red outlined platform that I couldn't step on. I need the red gem to access that, and the red gem's in Warp Room 3, so I'm going to have to come back for it. So this is G-Wiz. This is the second medieval level, and this one actually has 2 masks in it, which is pretty good. It actually might have 3, but I'm probably not going to get this one here because it's in a slot crate. Yeah. Yeah, so those purple crates that I was breaking, these are reinforced crates, and you're supposed to break them with the body slam. So the idea is that you get the super body slam from Tiny, and then they just introduce them in a level in groups of 3 or 4 or more. But with the invincibility, I just go right through them. Ideally, I will actually body slam those crates very rarely. So we got another invincibility coming up here. These wizards are also supposed to fire magic blasts at me, but when I'm invincible, they just sit there and do nothing. This frog likes to jump on the nitro. We'll see if he does that on the... Nope. Okay, he's spared. We'll see if he does it on the way back.
And Chad asks about the white boxes. Those will be filled in by hitting the exclamation point box that you can see a little bit to the right here.
Okay, I messed that strap up a little bit. If I'd done that correctly, I could have broken that first crate on the way down. Also, in terms of white boxes, they may have been talking about the slot crates. I'm not sure which ones, because it could be the outline crates also. The slot crates just... they change every second or so, and if I leave them out for too long, then they just turn into metal crates, so I have to break them pretty quickly.
For the bonus strats, that's, well, part of the air portion of it relies on that if one of those boxes spawns and it's breakable and you're inside it, it just breaks.
All right, so because I have 2 masks here, I'm just going to immediately go into level 7, hang 'em high. This is a level where the triple mask invincibility is even more important than normal, and we'll see why when I get to it. That scimitar enemy, if he is swinging his sword, he is completely invulnerable, so I cannot hit him. So I just waited him out. All right. Yeah. So with triple mask, Crash moves very, very fast on the hangrails, which will be very prominent here because we're coming up to a really long hangrail section. Right, it's about to run out here, and you'll see just how much you slow down. Yeah, so imagine if I had to go at that speed for this entire hangrail. The triple mask is very crucial for this. So at the end of this bonus, there's another neat little thing I'm going to do here. I did it wrong. I never messed that up. So what I tried to do there is TNTs in this game have expanding hitboxes. So if you land on one with a spin and bounce away in time, you can actually completely avoid the explosion hitbox, which is called a spin bounce. I messed it up, but there will definitely be other points in the run where I'll try it, so hopefully I won't mess it up then. It's actually fine that I took a hit here, because I can use G-Wiz's time trial to replenish masks. That's actually why I opened with G-Wiz in this warp room, even though Hang 'em High is the most important invincibility, is that if you take a straight hit like that, you're going to want to replenish your masks, and you can only realistically do that if you've already done G-Wiz, because every other time trial in this warp room uses masks in a way where you're not going to leave the level with 2 of them. Or it's just a time trial that for other reasons I have to do later.
And we'll also be doing the hang high time trial a little bit later after we have the double jump.
Yeah. There's not too much going on in this time trial, so if there's any dominations, I can be read out while I'm doing them. Getting a platinum relic in a time trial like this just kind of shows how powerful the neutral slide jump can be. Using normal intended movement tech, just the running shoes, that platinum relic can be a bit tight. So now I'm going to do Tomb Time. Tomb Time is unique in that it is the only level where on the first visit I cannot get any gems. There's crates and an extra gem that are hidden behind a door that unlocks with the purple gem, which is in Warp 3. So the only thing I can get in this level on the first visit is the crystal. So there will be a point after I finish up the third warp room, I will backtrack both to the first warp room and this one to finish Boneyard and Tomb Time.
Now, of note here is that those doors are normally on a cycle, but they're forced to stay open when you're invincible.
Yeah. It's definitely a very key usefulness of the invincibility. Definitely in later Egyptian levels as well. It'll be very, very important.
This also applies to iframes.
Yeah. Anytime Crash takes damage, cycles like that oftentimes just freeze in place, and you can use that to your advantage. Alright. So we're entering Midnight Run. This is the second of the 2 Tiger levels. So I'm going to take a hit here. The reason for that is there's a weird bug in these levels where you see these crates that are hanging onto these flags. For some reason, if I have a double mask and the draw distance spawns these flags, and sometimes they just spawn underground and I just can't get the crate. So it's safer to just take a hit at the start because I'm not going to need the mask for anything else. It's a very weird bug that I'm not sure why it happens, but also this game was developed in 1 year, so there, a lot of weird jank like that kind of just slipped through the cracks. All right, so I'm going to come up for the next cuddle skip. Hopefully I get this right. It requires a damage abuse. That should work. All right, yeah, that should work. Nice.
Very nice.
And we'll be going right back into Midnight Run again, so we'll be doing that cuddle skip a second time. Yeah, with the damage off of the guy holding the bags of rice, you can land on top of the flagpole and then use the flagpole to get enough height to reach the portal and also grab the gem at the same time.
Some of those high 3 boxes are higher than the ones in Orient Express and cannot be reached without doing a running jump.
Yeah, I guess that is a very subtle thing that should be noted, is that the speed you get from a charge gives you extra height and distance as well, and that is something they put into play in this level that they didn't do in the previous one. All right, so same song and dance, we're going to try and do the cuddle skip again. And it dropped my jump. Okay, you guys get one more cuddle, but then this is also the last we're going to see of Purah in the run, so look how cute they are. And all it cost was about 5 seconds. All right, so we got one more level in this warp room before the next boss. And this level is Hog Ride. It is the first motorcycle level. The goal of these levels is that I'm in a race, and I have to win the race to get the crystal.
There's a slight initial boost you can get by pressing and holding X between the second red and the green.
Yep. Definitely very nice for this. Also, I am skipping crates because I'm intentionally going to one-cycle this level for the purpose of holding onto this turbo boost. The time trial on this level is tight enough where you have to break most of the crates anyway, and you can't hold this turbo indefinitely and break every crate at the same time, so it's faster to just, bypass all the crates on the first visit and then just get the gem and the relic at the same time. I also honestly think that makes the one cycle and the level as a whole easier, because when you go for all of the crates, the time trial time becomes very consistent. The gold relic time I think is like 41 seconds and some change, and when you do the one cycle, you very consistently get 40-second times. All right, so this second boss is Dingodile. He's a very cool, intricate boss fight where you kind of have to bait his attacks to destroy the crystal shield around him. At least that's what they wanted you to do. So that glitch high jump we mentioned before. Yeah, we can just skip that entirely and this fight becomes extremely trivial.
It's a real shame that that means we don't get to hear much of this music.
Yeah, this is one of the best songs in the game. Crash 3 has a great soundtrack, honestly. Also, if anybody has played the remake and is wondering, that is also doable in the remake. They kept the glitch high jump in, and they actually buffed it.
Worries, but you'll soon be up against much worse.
So the power-up we get from Dingodile is the double jump, and this power-up, unlike the body slam, is actually very useful. We'll be making a lot of use of this power-up throughout the run. But before we do that, we have to go finish up Hog Ride. So this time around, I'm going to go ahead and break all the crates. There's only 13 of them in this level, so it's not a very tall order.
Some are on top of the ramps, so that's going to lose the wheelie.
And again, that was why we did the just the crystal in the first pass, so I could keep that wheelie for the whole level. Keeping the wheelie for the entire level does save, like, I think around 5 seconds, so it's definitely very useful to do. And then as long as I don't make any other errors, this should be fine. This isn't a particularly difficult level, but it is a very unforgiving one if you make a critical mistake. It's very easy to lose the race or just not have enough time to do the time trial. But that's not what happened today, so yeah, 40-26 is about on par with what I usually get. I usually get something in like the 40-23 to 40-40 range. So we got one more time trial in this warp room for now. There's two time trials I haven't done in this warp room, but one of them is Toon Time, which we'll be doing when I come back. The other one is Hang 'em High, and this one has a trick at the very end called Yellow Gem Early, or YGE. And this will allow us to skip a visit to an alternate entrance to this level that's in the 6th warp room. The 6th warp room unlocks levels based on how many relics you have. The second pass to this level requires 10 relics. I only have 8. Well, I'll only have 8 after this, and the yellow gem is very critical for the next warp room, so this will just allow me to not have to worry about that at all. But it's also very, very important that I keep the masks here, because to have enough time to do this and get the gold relic, I have to have the triple for this movement.
That 2 on the first hang grid is a rare example of a mask that goes away in the time trial.
Yeah, they just moved it to later on in the level.
Also, between these buildings, you can spot the yellow gem.
Yeah, we just went right past it. It was very blink and you'll miss it. Hopefully I don't mess this up. I messed it up. This is like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not hard, but I don't know, it's been screwing with me recently. So we'll try again. I even like sat down and practiced it multiple times because I was just constantly screwing it up, and it still wants to be that guy. So.
That is tough. That's a double jump with the second one being a glitch high, right?
Yeah, it's you do a neutral slide jump into a double jump. I don't know if the spin during the double jump is necessary. I just do it because it makes me feel better. But that gives you enough distance to reach a platform on the other side that lets you reach the yellow gem. It's supposed to be the platform that takes you back to the main level. It's okay. I think my positioning is just like very slightly off. So in terms of like difficulty or like barrier to entry compared to Crash 1 and 2, I would say Crash 3 is overall a much easier game. Casually, especially. As a speedrun, I think it's daunting not in like the difficulty of pulling off what you have to do, but more so just like everything you have to remember. But it is also the kind of run where single mistakes can lose you at least a minute. And that's why my estimate is so high. I set the estimate to 220, and my personal best is a 207. So that just shows how wrong this run can go sometimes. Third time's a charm. There we go. Now I just don't have to mess this up. Let's try that again. I messed the camera up, okay. That one was actually my fault. I fat-fingered and pressed square by mistake. If you spin in the air, it halts all your momentum. I don't know about you guys, I just really like this level. It's so cool. I just really want to keep playing it.
About the camera, there was a special movement setup that was needed on the platform as it was moving back over to get the camera in the right position that it will move over to where the yellow gem is.
Yeah.
That is required because if the yellow gem is not in view, you cannot grab it.
Yeah, the Crash games, in order to process everything, run on a policy of if it's not on screen, it doesn't exist. So I have to tap, very lightly tap up and down on the D-pad to shift the camera into the position I want. Okay, please let this one work. There we go, okay. Now let this work, please. There we go, okay.
All right.
First try. The first three didn't count. Yeah, it can only go up from there, right?
Do I have time for a quick donation?
Yeah, go for it.
Sweet. We have $25 from Go Cubbies.
I got that one.
Oh, you read that? Oh, great. Well then, thank you again, Go Cubbies, and remember to donate to Urban Arts for that Switch giveaway that Go Cubbies entered, and obviously to support their students.
Go Cubby's donation was so good, we just had to read it a second time.
There it is.
All right. So now we are finally at the third warp room after much trial and tribulation. So this is Dynamite. This is the second prehistoric level. Unlike the first one, Boneyard, this one actually starts forward and without a chase, and we won't have to deal with chases until closer to the end. But the way this level is done is going to look very weird, and it will make sense in time. First off, there's the yellow gem platform that I very much needed to beat Hang'em High's time trial for. But we'll be coming back to it. That was an egg. Those are pretty cool, right? The egg has a baby dinosaur in it named Baby T. It takes time for him to hatch out of the egg, so we just get him here. The difference in movement speed between neutral slide jumping and Baby T is very subtle, so we can go without using him for a little bit and not really lose much time. With Baby T, the movement is just jumping and zigzagging, so it's very reminiscent of Crash 1. Unfortunately, we can't bring him into this section, so we just take a damage there to make him throw us off immediately. All right, so I'm going to come down here and break this checkpoint, and I'm going to backtrack. So the yellow gem path spits you out like about right here. And obviously that wouldn't let us get all of the crates that are in this section, so it was important that I did these first and then backtrack to the yellow gem. And there's also something else about this level that I'll explain when we get to it, that is the reason I'm doing things in this order.
The yellow gem path has not just lots of boxes and the other gem, but the nitro detonator in it too.
Yeah. This is one of those levels just packed with a lot of things. Also, these bandy fish that are apparently Crash's ancestors, when they're spinning, you can't actually hit them, and that includes when you're invincible. So I kind of just try to jump over them. Here I'm going to try and just abuse the if it's on screen, it doesn't exist thing. Let's see if I got it. I did. Okay, so if a TNT is counting down and I make it deload, then it'll automatically detonate, and it's programmed to delete specific crates that are around it. For that first TNT that I stepped on, one of the crates it's programmed to delete is that reinforced crate that was under it, so I didn't have to body slam it. And normally if you watch a TNT detonate next to a reinforced crate, you do have to eventually body slam it. So that's just like a nice little oversight you can use to skip having to do a body slam. So the last key piece of the way I'm routing this level, that checkpoint in the gem path, it was very important that it was the last checkpoint in the level that I break. And again, that will make more sense when I reach the end of the level. So this bonus round, I'm pretty sure in the room where they were, designing all of the levels, they probably at some point realized, oh crap, we do not have good use of the super body slam. Let's just make a bonus where they have to do the super body slam like 10 times. And that's this bonus round.
Or in this case, take advantage of the little shockwave from it.
All right, check this out. Hopefully I get this. Hey, what's up?
Nice.
Yeah, so you can make the dinosaur come out early just by running down, and it doesn't matter because there's another dinosaur in there anyway. Very big cave, clearly. Coming up to the end of the level, I'm gonna break these crates, grab this box gem, and then backtrack and let the dinosaur kill me. This takes me back to the yellow gem path because there is something very weird in this gem path. I really like this pterodactyl. Let's go for a ride. Yeah, so this pterodactyl, if you get killed by him, takes you to a secret level. I could not tell you why they thought this was a good idea because there's absolutely no hint to it. But this is Aegipus Rex. This is level 32. It's the only level in the game that has no boxes, so the only thing you get here is the gem for finishing it and the time trial. And the time trial is ridiculously easy, like I don't even really have to worry about it.
The time trial for this and for the similar level, similar in entrance method level Hot Cocoa, they're supposed to have their own relic times, but they actually inherit the relic times of the level you enter them from. And that causes both of them to be very easy relics to get.
Yeah, and that's actually going to come up for Hot Cocoa because it's the level we're going to do after this. But yeah, so fun fact, the two secret levels, this one and Hot Cocoa, these are the levels that push the game's percentage to 105%. Because if you get everything else in the game except for the gem and relic in this level, the gem and relic in Hot Cocoa, and then the gem for getting all 30 gold relics, you'll have 100%. But having these added pushes the percentage up to 105%, so at least Naughty Dog had the foresight to realize that maybe not everybody was going to find these, and you can get the true ending without them. Again, I got button glitch on a pass, that doesn't matter.
How many of us accidentally entered that level as a kid?
I never ran into that pterodactyl.
A whole level based on most definitely not Yoshi.
So this is Road Crash. This is a level that I have opinions on, but this is not the time to talk about it because we're not actually finishing Road Crash right now. We're going into Hot Cocoa because this is a really cool looking alien sign. And if you hit it, it takes you to Hot Cocoa. Yeah, so Hot Cocoa is a really interesting level. A lot of people come into my chat and tell me how much they hate this level. I love this level, actually. This is definitely one of the hardest levels in the game, but it's really cool in the way it's set up. It's the only level that is not linear. It is completely open, and the way the level works is that you actually get spawned at the end, but the portal is blocked off by a wall of nitros, and you can't take masks into this level. So the goal of this level is to find the nitro detonator, hit it, and then, travel back to the warp portal. I did this in the wrong order, but it's not really that big a deal, actually.
There's always ways to go.
Yeah, but nobody wants to go for that. Yeah, so this level has a one cycle because of that glitch with the time trial times that Stump talked about. So the gold relic time for this level is supposed to be like 30 seconds, and there's no way you can beat the whole level with a time trial time of 30 seconds while also breaking every crate. But because of the glitch, I am comparing to the time trial times for Road Crash, and the gold relic for Road Crash is like 1 minute and 20 seconds. So I have a lot of time to do this gold relic. And this glitch is actually exclusive to the US version of the game, the NTSC-EU version. It was fixed on the PAL version and the Japanese version. It's one of the many reasons the PAL version is not optimal, but it is like basically the biggest reason that the Japanese version is not optimal. The other reasons the PAL version is not optimal is that they actually buffed the movement speed on the PAL version, which they also did in Crash 1 and 2, and that's why Crash 2 is optimal on the PAL version. But they also got rid of a lot of mask crates, so you get invincibility way less often, and you actually also jump higher on the PAL version, which normally would be a good thing, but in Crash 3 it makes the neutral slide jump slower. So a lot of the times in the PAL version you actually just have to slide spin.
There we had a few examples of the trouble that the wave cycles can cause.
Yeah, going under the crate and then going above it and all that. Alright, so I was supposed to get that first ramp like after the nitro detonator, but I did it a bit backwards, so it's all fine. Alright, I'm gonna be patient here. That's really bad, actually. That was not really kind of the wave, and now I have to wait this shark out, so I hope I have enough time for this.
The time is 1:20.73.
You should be okay with this.
Yeah, this
There's 3 more
looks
crates.
good to me.
There's 3 more crates, and they're all 2 crates, so we should be fine. It'll be tight, but it's fine. Yeah, we're good. Okay. That was probably the single most inconvenient spot to get thrown over a crate because of wave, because that shark moves very, very slow. You know, in this busy day and age, we all have things to do, but not that shark. That shark will move at his own pace.
And that shark really, really likes hanging out right by the bottom of that ramp.
Yeah. That could have gone way worse, so I'll count my blessings. All right, now we'll actually do Road Crash, and I will get button glitch on the Crystal Pass again. So Road Crash, if you were to ask me what I think is, from a casual point of view, the worst level in the game, it would be this one. This is a very long, drawn-out race with a lot of tight turns and very, very little room for error. You can, like, you know, take a stray bit of slowdown here or there, but if you, like, fall in a hole or if you crash into something, that can just decide the race for you. There have been many times in the past where I'm doing a run and I just make one error in this level and the run's just over.
This is really an unforgiving one.
Yeah. For how easier I think Crash 3 is compared to 1 and 2, I would say this is actually a pretty significant roadblock in terms of just being able to beat the game. Also, much like Hog Ride, I am going to one-cycle this level intentionally. This also has one of the tightest gold relics in general, and much like Hog Ride, in order to realistically get it, you have to break most of the time, or you have to break most of the crates in the level. So it makes more sense to just cut corners on the first pass, and then when you have to break most of the crates anyway, just get the gem at the same time.
In this level, in the time trial of it, actually, every box is a time box.
Yep, every single box becomes a 2 crate. It's not technically optimal to break all of them, but it's better than having to break them all in the first pass and then break most of them on the second pass anyway.
This really is a tight gold time. It was the last gold relic I got as a kid.
Yeah, it had to have been one of the last ones I got. It was one of the last platinums I got. It was either this or Tonal Tales was the last platinum I got. And I remember this being a very hard gold as well. Yeah, the gold relic time here, again, it's the same as Hot Cocoa's. It's 120, like 70 or something.
73.
Yeah. I think I very frequently get like 17s and 18s here. That's just how tight it is. Road Crash is so good, they just make you enter it 3 times. A common discussion I've actually had with some people about this level is that like there's a theory that this level actually was supposed to be swapped with the motorcycle level in the 5th warp room, because that one is significantly easier. And if they were swapped, then the progress of the time of day in the motorcycle levels would gradually become later and later, because you know like Hog Ride starts in like midday, and then this one's like in the evening, but then the one in Warp Room 5, Orange Asphalt, is like at about twilight, and then there's a motorcycle level in the last Warp Room that is like in the dead of night. So I don't know, it's been an interesting theory to think about, but regardless, this is the one they put in the 3rd Warp Room. Lost my bearings a little bit here, try to not run into anything. Naturally, this was like the one visit to Road Crash where I didn't get the button glitch. That would have been very nice for this. Because the Dynamite's gold relic time is a 125, and having that extra 5 seconds to work with would be wonderful right now.
An interesting thing about this level is that it actually forms a complete loop. It ends where it starts.
Yep, it is the only race, I believe, to do that, and if you skip the 2 crates at the start, you can actually see that, because they'll be there when you finish the race.
You can see that sign there really in the distance.
I just want to point out, the platinum relic time for this level is like a very low 117, so I was like only a few frames off of that plat. That was a really good Road Crash time trial. Alright, so that was a long brigade of vehicle levels. Now we can double back to the Dynamite time trial, and this will be to replenish masks for the next levels coming up. Something of note, most platforming time trials have 3 masks in them, so you can like almost always guarantee having like a triple mask movement moment. Dynamite is one of the 2 that doesn't, and the other one being Toad Village. So this is one where not only is it important to leave the level with 2 masks, it's important that I don't get hit because I don't have a triple to work with, and I don't have a backup mask if I do take a stray hit here. And we'll be using Baby T. Conveniently in the time trial, he just spawns automatically out of his egg, so we don't have to wait for him to hatch.
There are a couple of things that change slightly like that in time trials. Not only that being pre-hatched, but there are also things like when you enter the 3rd mask form, you don't, well, a little bouncing animation at the beginning is skipped in time trials.
I want to point out a neat little glitch here that isn't used in the run. If you properly space a body slam at the point where Baby T would be throwing you off normally, you can sometimes pull him in past that trigger, and then you can finish the level with him. It doesn't save any time, and it's a little finicky, so we just don't bother with it. It is pretty cool, though. The dinosaur makes noises that just like represent my whole mood a lot of the time.
That gold is a particularly generous one.
Yeah, it's very nice. All right, so this is the level that can crash on coming in. I almost never get it, but I have a backup save if it happens. Thankfully, it did not happen. So yeah, this is double header, and this is a really laggy level. It pushes the console to its limit. So sometimes when you spawn in, it's just too much for the console to handle, and the game just hard locks. It's more frequent if you have, damaged hardware, or if you're on like an older model PlayStation. I'm on a 90K PS2, which is the last model they made before they discontinued the system, so I really do not have to deal with a lot of lag here. That's probably part of why I almost never get the crash.
That time on Dynamite beat the gold relic time by about 29 seconds.
Yeah. It's definitely a very generous one. right, here's something else I'm going to try and do. Nice.
Nice nitro jumps.
Yep. So that's something you can only do in Crash 3. It's not possible in Crash 2. In Crash 3, nitros also have expanding hitboxes similar to the TNTs, as opposed to Crash 2, where touching them just immediately damages you. So if you buffer a jump right when you land on the nitro, you actually just can get out of the range of it, and that's just useful for a lot of fringe scenarios. And it just looks really cool. I guess let's not mention that I'm on a 90K PS2. I should also mention the reason I'm on a PlayStation 2 as opposed to, you know, a PlayStation 1. This is pretty standard for many PS1 games these days, I feel, but the PS2 has an option in its system settings called fast disk speed. And when you turn that on, PS1 discs spin at the same speed as a PlayStation 2 disc, and it cuts the load times down by about half. And I want to say it saves like close to 5 minutes in this run because there's so many loads.
This causes some games to not work right, so that's why it's an option.
Yeah. So part of the reason I did the nitro bounces there and why I took a stray hit on those nitros towards the end is that the nitro detonator in that level is on the opposite side of the gem. So by manually destroying every nitro through the triple mass, through the nitro bounces, and through that damage abuse I took, I was just able to not have to touch the nitro detonator at all. And it saves like, you know, like a second or two. But it's just some minor optimization. Okay, so this is the second of the two underwater levels, Deep Trouble. We didn't really explain underwater movement because during Under Pressure we were explaining the basics of, like, you know, movement mechanics and one cycles and stuff. So underwater, Crash has, you know, the basic weighting if you just press directions on the D-pad. He can also paddle faster if you are mashing X, and then every time you spin, as long as he's not touching something, he'll get a short boost forward. So movement in this really comes down to you're just constantly pressing X. You press any of the 3 spin buttons. You normally spin is only square, but in the underwater levels, R1 and circle also spin. And ideally, you don't want to spin when you're touching anything either, because you'll just get a hard stop. It can make learning the movement in these levels when you're, you know, starting out very tricky, because you'll see, like, right there, I was touching the crate, so I just got no movement whatsoever. But I do think it's cool that there's, like, that much intricacy to the movements in this. Also, these whirlpools are some of the few things in the game that aren't on a global cycle. Their cycle starts at a certain point when they spawn in. So you can use that to just very reliably predict them. So this is the level with the red gem, and the way they want you to get it is very odd. So this is the end of the level, but we're not going to actually leave the level yet. So there was a group of like 3 crates and an exclamation box there, and you can see that I activated it by shooting it because an exclamation mark just shot to the left. And then when I get that, I have to backtrack this way. Ideally, I wouldn't have lost the fish mech I was on because it was very fast, but this is fine. Work this out. So that exclamation crate spawned in a bunch of crates over here, namely this TNT, which I will just spin and get out of the way of with the boost from the spin. So yeah, this extra section has a lot of crates and it has the red gem, so it's a requirement to fully complete the level. I'm going to damage abuse here because I just lost both of them by mistake. Yeah, iframes are a bit weird in the underwater levels. Sometimes you can just get hit twice. I was going to use the second mass to go through these vortexes, but I think what happened is that I got hit by the whirlpool and I got hit by the pufferfish, so it just counted as me getting hit twice, even though I was in iframes. All right, doing those damage abuses, though, did relinquish me of both of my masks, so we will be going back to doubleheader to fix that. So hopefully we don't crash again. All right, we're good. Hopefully we will not have to deal with any of that for the remainder of the run. There are, like, Crash 3 is not the most stable game. It's probably the least stable of the 3 on PS1. And there are very fringe scenarios where the game just crashes in the middle of the warp room. Those are so uncommon that I just don't expect them to happen, and if they do, that's I don't really know what to say. I think in the 6 to 7 years I've been running this game, I've gotten a Whirlpool crash once, and I've gotten double header crash like twice or 3 times, I think. So there really aren't that common. There's only one other crash on the run that it is completely controllable, but I do have a backup for it as well. All right. So we have one more crystal in this warp room to get. You may notice I haven't done Deep Trouble's time trial yet. That's a time trial where it is just beneficial to burn your masks through it, so it's something I just do after the boss. All right, so this is the last level in this warp room. This is high time. This is one of the, I want to say this is one of the hardest levels in the run, but I also think it's one of the coolest ones. The Arabian levels on a whole, I think, are just consistently really good. They're just the peaks of the game's platforming for sure. So the cool thing I'm going to do here is drop off the hangrail and bounce on the carpet guy, and it puts me right back on the hangrail. It saves me a spin. Alright, I didn't catch this carpet cycle, so we're just going to wait here and do this thing where Crash pulls his legs up. It is completely useless in this game, and in Crash 2 it is only useful at one point. Neat little thing you can do with reinforced crates here. If you end up under them, they break automatically when they land on you, so that again saves me a body slam. Alright, okay. I tried to do a spin bounce there, I messed it up. Actually, that's a strat I only started doing recently, so I'm not entirely comfortable with it. Unfortunately, we're not going to get invincibility here, but the invincibilities are definitely really important, but sometimes like newer runners overstate or like just overestimate how much they save. Like losing that triple is not the end of the world. If anything, like the death probably cost me like a good 30, 40 seconds. Losing the triple probably was like 5 to 10. Unfortunately though, there is a strat in the next boss fight coming up that completely optimally I would need 2 masks for. I can still do some of it and I will go for it, but I just will not be able to do the whole thing now. But it only saves like a few seconds, so it's not a big deal. There was an example of a spin bounce off of TNTs. Okay, no, we're just not going to do a thing in entropy at all. The strat I was trying to go for in the next boss fight, every time you do it, it saves like 2 seconds, and you can do it once per mask, so it would have saved 4 seconds. So it's not even like a really big deal. I'm honestly almost kind of glad I can't go for it, because I've been messing it up a lot in practice, and dying in the boss fight loses more than not being able to do it at all, so I'm glad I'm just not tempted. I can explain what it is, because there's just like not really anything going on in this fight otherwise. I think Crash 3's boss fights are actually a pretty nice step up from Crash 1 and especially Crash 2. But this boss, Entropy, is the one exception. I actually think this is a pretty dull boss fight. So you just have to like dodge the attacks he throws at you. If you stand as far away from him as possible, these like beams that move left to right just can't touch you. So you can just do that. But this is really just a lot of waiting for an opening. So if I had the masks here, if you actually manage to get to the other side of Entropy, he has an attack that automatically kills you regardless of how many masks you have. So the strat here is that you get to the other side, you intentionally get hit by one of those spheres he throws at you. So when he throws the auto kill attack, you are in invincibility frames, so you can't get hit by it. And it just like saves small frames because it causes him to start the next phase of attack sooner, and you also are closer to him. But again, it's like really minor, so we're talking like a couple seconds.
Those wave patterns and whether those particles are high or low is completely fixed. The only random element is the platform arrangement.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very uninteresting boss fight compared to the rest of the ones in the game. Oh, that could have been really bad. Yeah. That being said, though, the power-up we get from Entropy is, I want to say, inarguably the most important power-up in the game and the most powerful. This is the Death Tornado Spin, and it is going to define many levels for the rest of the run. Okay, so there's a really interesting glitch here that only happens when sound effects are on, where sometimes if you leave the Entropy fight, you just immediately spawn in the warp room without the falling out animation. I didn't get it there. It wouldn't have mattered if I did. But I just thought it was neat to point out. So I did get button glitch here, so I don't have to worry about this one cycle. So yeah, this one cycle in high time is one of the harder ones just because it's a very cycle-heavy level, and the movement you have to do for it can be a bit tricky, and if you fall behind it, it's very easy to just fail this. And something I guess was not really mentioned on the first pass of high time, this is the first level in the game that has a death route, if I'm not mistaken. So death routes are a staple of a lot of the older Crash games, particularly 2, 3, and then like the Wrath of Cortex on PS2 and Xbox. They only spawn in if you reach them without dying in the level. But in time trials, as long as you didn't die before starting a time trial, they'll always spawn, which is why I did the death abuse at the very beginning, along with just making the cycles consistent. Every time you die, the global cycles reset. So a lot of time trials where the cycles are really important, you'll see me die or restart the time trial immediately just so I know what I'm coming into. But yeah, there's like, I think 3 death routes in this game, and 2 of them are part of one cycle, so I don't have to worry about the non-dying aspect of them. The last one, it will be a factor, but it's at the very end of the run. Normally the gold time here is 104, so you saw I had like a couple seconds to spare to get that, but I got a platinum relic because I got the button glitch, so the time I was comparing to was actually Dynamite's gold relic, which is 125. So that was an example of the button glitch being really useful. And then this is the last thing we have in this warp room is Deep Trouble's time trial. And again, this is a time trial that just throws a lot of masks at you. So, and it's just optimal to just use them to push through those whirlpools without waiting on them. So that's why we leave this one for the end, is that like you can't use it really to replenish masks unless you absolutely have to. So it's better to just save it either as a backup if you need to, or just do it after you've done everything in the warp room. That was the first damage abuse.
That question mark box back there you don't see very often in the time trials. That would have been a mask if Rico had lost a mask sufficiently before it.
Yeah. So there is one more whirlpool that I can skip if I'm just fast enough, but it depends on this pufferfish being in a good position. It was not, so I was just going to wait it out regardless. It's one of those ones where it does save time, but if you die and have to go back to the beginning of the time trial, it's really rough. Time trials, generally the threat of dying is not a huge issue in most of them, because most of the levels are designed in a way where you just don't really have to worry about it. But if it does happen, it really sucks, and a lot of the one cycles, the biggest threat is, you know, like trying to not die. And as evidenced from when I was trying to do the yellow gem early and hang them high, it can be very costly to mess up. All right, so that is the last thing in Warp Room 3. So now we have to double back and finish up the few things we have in the first 2 Warp Rooms. So the first of those will be Boneyard, and again, this will be a one cycle. This button glitch is completely useless because the most generous time trial in Warp Room 1 is Boneyard. So there is no time trial that makes this easier. Focus on this one. This is one of the one cycles where it's not hard once you've learned it, but it requires a huge amount of knowledge because it is a lot of backtracking and just going through hazards. .37 into 38 is pretty good time to land on this red gem platform. And again, we got this platform by getting the red gem in Deep Trouble, which is why we couldn't do this sooner.
the movement through here is the particularly tricky part of this. The time to beat is 1:40:20.
Really? I have not gotten that in like over a month, and I thought I was free of it. Yeah, if you move too fast in that gem pad, I don't even know what causes it, but the floor just didn't spawn there.
I haven't seen that in this level before.
Yeah, it's the way you avoid it, as far as I understand, is you just kind of slow down a bit there, and I don't know. It hasn't been hitting me recently, so I just, yeah. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. I don't think I've ever seen it happen twice in one run, so yeah, not much I can do about that one. You're really getting the whole Crash 3 105 experience with this run. Yeah, sometimes the stability of this game really shows, in that it's hanging by like glues and paper clips. Really, what I was gonna say before I got there, the big killer of this time trial is this grass. The grass just slows you down immensely, and just knowing how to just get through that quickly is like the biggest key part of this one cycle. Hopefully that doesn't happen again.
That grass is powerful. It even slows you down in third mask form.
That grass is so powerful they nerfed it in the remake. In the Insane Trilogy, you can just slide spin through it super freely. Right. Yep. 136 is pretty solid. I think the average good time for this one cycle is in the 34, 36 range. So yeah. And that was the Boneyard one cycle, featuring one of the funniest glitches in this run, but also one of the most infuriating if you're on a good pace. Yep, that's everything in Warp 1, so we just have to close out Warp 2. Oh, okay, I didn't get it. This is the one button glitch that I mentioned earlier that I personally need to do this one cycle, so I'm just going to not bother with it. The Tomb Time one cycle is very, very difficult. The way you do it is when you enter the level, you just immediately go to the bonus, clear out the bonus, and then Death Abuse. Bonuses stay finished even after you've died. So from there, you would just spawn back to the beginning of the level with the bonus cleared, and then you just clear out the rest of the level in the time that you would have to do the time trial. It is extremely tight. The gold relic time for this level is 1 minute and 10 seconds. I think the best time I've gotten in this one cycle is a 1 minute 12. So that just shows how tight this one cycle can be. With the button glitch, I would have been able to use G-Wiz's time trial time, which is 121. And that extra 12, or it's 122 rather, and that extra 12 seconds really just makes a difference, but I didn't get it, so I'm just gonna go on without it. You do have the option, even if you can't do the one cycle, to just do the one cycle movement and then just reset the time trial when you grab the gem at the end. It's not any faster or slower than just entering the level twice. So if you're trying to learn the one cycle movement, it's useful for that, but for a marathon, it's much safer to just do 2 visits to the level, and since it doesn't use any time, I just figured this would be better. Especially considering I've already had some pretty rough spots elsewhere in this. Okay, so unfortunately I got hit by the arrows there, so we're not going to get the second triple in this level. But we'll see it in the time trial pass, so it's fine. Also, that door was conveniently on a good cycle. Oh yeah, this is the Death Tornado spin, by the way. I think this is actually the first time we're making heavy use of it. There was some of it in high time, I think. But basically, with the Death Tornado spin, your basic spin now can be mashed, and if you mash it, you kind of just glide through the air. And there's 4 levels of the spin, one for every button press you do. So at 4, you just fly through the air like this. This is an incredibly broken power-up, and it trivializes a lot of the later parts of the run. Alright, so one more thing in this warp room is just the time trial for team time. Naturally, I get it this time. Oh, that's not useful anymore. I am gonna, again, try and leave this time trial with 2 masks just because the first level, there's a level in War 4 where having 2 masks is extremely useful. So. Again, like some mentioned the first time I was in this level, when you have a triple mask, those doors just stay open, so I didn't have to wait on them at all. You can see them like slam shut and then immediately open when I get near them.
If we had the one cycle, we would also have seen the, since this is the only gem path that you don't ride a platform to, it's the only one that has time boxes on it.
I actually didn't know that. Oh wait, no, I did know that. Yeah, it does have a few. All right, yep, so that is basically the first half of the game done. That's the first 3 of warp rooms, and there's 6 total. It's about minute 15 in. Yeah, that sounds about right, given how both Boneyard and Hang 'em High were huge time losses. But again, that's just how this run is, and that's why I said my estimate is so high. All right. So actually, this part of the run, I kind of call it the Egypt Gauntlet, because you just do 3 Egypt levels all in a row, and you just do multiple visits for all of them. So we're going to be seeing a lot of this level theme. But also, this is one of the coolest songs in the game, so I'm okay with it. Yeah, so the gimmick with this level, Tomb Waiter, is that this water just goes up and down every few seconds. Crash cannot swim without proper scuba gear, which in real life makes 0 sense. It is actually, I took a scuba class in school, and it is actually, the first thing they tell you is do not take scuba with the intention of learning how to swim, so it doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
So there's a reason for leaving that checkpoint there. This actually came into play on a previous level too, but I didn't mention it. But since that counting TNT exploded and blew up a bunch of nitros and boxes on the exit from that bonus, those don't actually count as bonus boxes. So dying in the main level after that before the next checkpoint would have lost those boxes and prevented getting the box gem.
Yeah, it would have forced a re-entry. Also, the reason the triple was so important in this level, aside from the movement buff, is that it keeps this water down. So I was just able to go through that entire section of the level without even having to worry about the water at all. This is one of the most critical levels to have a triple mask in because of that. Thankfully, the water is pretty generous. Once it starts going down, it usually will not kill you, so like you can use that to your advantage. Also, this is the second level that has a death route. We went through it we went past it while I was doing the mask movement. We will be coming back to that for a 1 cycle, but before that, we're gonna do level 16, Sphinxinator, which is also an Egypt-themed level. And that's just to make use of these 2 masks I have currently anyway. Warp 4 is the warp room that has the most flexible routing. The order I do these levels is gonna depend entirely on like what happens with my masks. I actually believe the world record, which is held by Burgerlands 2, he is one of the runners who actually uses level splits. But his splits for Warp Room 4, I'm pretty sure just say Tomb Waiter 1 and then the rest of Warp 4 lol, because it's just that flexible. I had some awkward movement there, but it's fine. Alright, so there's 28 crates, and there's 18 here, so I should have 46 after all these TNTs blow up. I'm saying this to myself because I very frequently leave somewhere behind by accident. We are at 46, we are good.
And that's what a colored gem platform looks like when you don't have that. We'll be getting that very soon and doing another one cycle.
Yeah, that blue gem is in Tomb Waiter. It's also like a very minor reason to do this before doing the Tomb Waiter time trial is that like you just don't have to worry about accidentally hitting that platform. All right. At this point, the masks I have here are not particularly important, so I can go for some risky strats in this bonus. Namely missing that. That was not one of the strats. But I can do a spin bounce here. Spin bouncing actually becomes like kind of scary when you have Death Tornado Spin, because doing a Death Tornado Spin, or like when you have the Death Tornado Spin, even a basic spin kind of halts your momentum in the air, and that can make the timing in the spin bounce very rough. But that spin bounce was very nice because it detonated the crate that was to the right of those TNTs. And if you off-screen those TNTs, it doesn't break those crates, so I didn't have to wait on the TNT or go out of my way to break that crate with the spin bounce. Also, I body slammed on that reinforced crate that had a TNT below it, and that was another use of the mask. It gets rid of the cooldown of the body slam by just hitting the TNT. With that said, we are going into the Tomb Waiter one cycle. In terms of actual time you have to hit, this is by far the most generous one cycle. The gold relic time in Tomb Waiter is 1 minute and 45 seconds, I believe, which is like they just realized how hard this level was, and it is a very hard level, so they just gave you a very generous gold relic time. In terms of like optimal movement, though, this is definitely like one of the harder one cycles, so I will try to go fast in it. So I'm actually going to not get that mask, which is a very rare occurrence in this game. You don't need it for this one cycle, and I'm going to lose it in the next level anyway, so it just saves time to cut the corner of not getting it. You can get that mask as a backup if I were to like take a hit in Tomb Waiter and then I didn't want to do Sphinxinator yet, but it does lose a cycle to do it, so if you can help it, it's better to just not get it. And it's very important I stay centered in the beginning of this one cycle. This is where the other consistent crash I was talking about happens. If that shield enemy just like goes into the wall because you're too far left or too far right, the game doesn't know what to do about it, so the game just crashes. Thankfully, that one is completely controllable, and I've only ever gotten it once, and that was because I was just not thinking at the time. But yeah, to show how easy this time trial is, that one cycle was a platinum relic. And I'm pretty sure the plat is like a 1-2x. So I had a lot of room to work with there. This is one of the one cycles that I would say, even as someone who is just starting to learn this category, you could go for that one cycle and get it.
That was a nice one cycle.
Yeah, it was very, very clean. Another one cycle that I would say is very easy, and anybody starting out could do it, even if you're a literal beginner, is this one. Sphinxinator's one cycle is also very generous, and the optimal movement also isn't really too hard, unlike Tomb Waiter, where you need to do a lot of really precise platforming. This is probably overall the easiest one cycle in the game, in terms of just not dying and actually hitting it on time and doing it fast. Yeah. I think like this run is pretty daunting to new runners because there is a lot you have to take in. There's a lot of strats, there's a lot of one cycles. A lot of the one cycles I would definitely not recommend newcomers do. The ones I would recommend are this one, Tomb Waiter, and anyone where like you have to do the one cycle anyway, so like Hot Cocoa or Aegipus Rex where like you have the time trial already, so you might as well just do it. And then like the vehicle levels like Hog Ride and Road Crash, those ones are both, I think those levels are easier when you do the one cycle. But yeah, this gem path is all oil. Oil is Crash 3's equivalent to the ice from Crash 2, so this is the closest we get to Crash 2's neutral slide spin movement because your speed is just capped out on oil no matter what. Alright, I took a hit there, but that actually just doesn't matter at all. Because the next level we're going to be doing is a vehicle level. Alright, so this next level is Tell No Tales. It is one of the 2 longest levels in the run, and it is by far the most boring. There is nothing going on in this level, and we do it twice in a row, so we're going to be here for like 5 minutes. So if there's like any new donations that rolled in or anything that wants to be like said, this is the perfect opportunity.
Ooh, that
Yeah,
bird.
If you hit the crate while the bird is sitting on it, it gets mad at you, and then it attacks you, and then Coco gets feathers in her hair, and it's the worst feeling. Oh, also the jet ski breaks, and I suppose that's a problem too. I guess a very key, subtle thing about the jet ski that makes moving through it like this really nice is that if you hold a down diagonal direction, that is the worst ramp in the game, and I cannot believe I got both of those crates on first try.
I can't either. That is the worst ramp in the game.
Yeah, that one never works for me. Anyway, if you hold down diagonals, like diagonal down left or diagonal down right, when you move on the jet ski, you actually get really sharp turns. So the really crazy movement you're seeing me do on the jet ski where I just like immediately pivot around after breaking a crate, that's a result of that. It's actually something you can't do in the Insane Trilogy, and I think that's part of why the jet ski was pretty widely disliked in the remake. I don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be. I saw a lot of people say that the jet ski in the remake is unplayable and uncontrollable, and that is not even close to true. You just have to take much wider turns with it than you had to do in the original, and it just takes getting used to. The tighter turns you can do on the original are definitely really nice, though. Yeah, so that little detour I had to do there for some extra crates is part of the reason this level is so long, but even without that, this level is just really long. All right, and Tell No Tales is such a great level that we're just going to do it again. Even though there's really not a huge amount going on in this level, I will say that there is one little key thing about it. How many masks? Okay. Nice wave. How many masks I leave this time trial with, whether it's 2 or it's a number less than 2, is going to determine how I route the remainder of the run, actually. There's 2 levels in the 6th warp room, and we will be going to the 6th warp room for a very brief time after this level. There are 2 levels down there that ideally you want to do at the end. That is technically the optimal place to do them, but if I don't leave this time trial with 2 masks, then it would be better for me to do them early in an attempt to replenish them. So I could be doing some endgame levels very early as a result, but we will see what happens. Okay, that time, that time it didn't work. This is, in my opinion, the worst Platinum Relic, just because you have to deal with stuff like that, and the Platinum Relic is extremely tight. This is the one that regularly gives me the most grief whenever I try to all-plat the game. There's another mask coming up here. It is conveniently placed between some cannonballs. Slowing down a little bit to let me go through the cycle just fine. So Barring no stray hits, I can do the route the way I planned on it. Very nice. Right. Tell No Tales is done, everybody can wake up again. That is just like a very noticeable drop in things going on in the run, and that has recently been my favorite spot to just like drop an ad break. Alright, so we are actually going to detour and go into Warp Room 6. The reason for this is that we now have 20 relics, which means we unlock button 29, which is an alternate entrance to level 19, Future Frenzy. And you need this alternate entrance in order to get both gems in the level, because there are crates and there's a gem at the end. You're intended to do this like in the post game after you've beaten the final boss, because you shouldn't have 20 relics at this point. But with enough of, with the neutral slide jump and with the secret levels, Hot Cocoa and Egg Strikes, you can get 20 relics before you ever have to set foot in Future Frenzy the first time. And obviously it's faster to just do this level once instead of doing it twice.
$133 here are the most of any level in Crash 3.
I believe so. The only, it should be. Yeah. I think the only level in general in the trilogy that might have more is Cold Hard Crash in Crash 2, which has 155. This is a level where Death Tornado Spin is going to be really nice to just bypass a lot of these enemies in the side-scrolling section. I'm going to try really hard to not take a hit here because I'm going to skip that mask and use it as a triple mask on the way back. It oftentimes doesn't pan out because Future Frenzy is a very hard level. But we'll see what happens. So the place that the secret entrance drops you off is very cruel. You have to backtrack to all of this stuff at the very beginning of the level. And this section involves going through a bunch of lasers and what we call the beehive enemies, blind essentially. So yeah. I'm going to take this a bit safe just because I would like to show off the triple mask if I could. Once I hit this group of 4 crates, there's nothing else going backwards, so we can just continue moving forward. Use the neutral slide jump and a double jump to Death Tornado Spin around that laser. And just try and squeeze through this last one here, and we're good. Okay. 70 crates is how many I should have at this point. And now I just have to try and not die before the next checkpoint, because that would be very bad. So those green, like, peppermint-looking platforms, if you touch them, you automatically get thrown into the air for a Death Tornado Spin. It's a bit of an interesting gimmick that's exclusive to this level, but it usually loses time to do, so we're just going to try and not hit those. This is a bonus where they kind of try and force you to use the Death Tornado Spin if you haven't already. You do use it at the end there, but some of those you just don't need to use it for.
There you could see some slides down onto stacks of boxes. A very efficient way to break large stacks of boxes from above.
Oh, for sure. We've done it a couple of times at this point in the run, but yeah, it's a nice thing to point out. Yeah. So, for those who don't know, in the PS1 Crash game, the way the Nitro Detonator works is that they do not destroy any crates that are adjacent to Nitro, so I do have to manually break any crate that's next to a nitro, even if, theoretically, if it exploded, it would take the crate with it. That is something that they changed from every game onwards that's not on the PS1, so Wrath of Cortex, you know, the GBA games, and even the remakes of these games and Crash 4 will all destroy crates adjacent to nitros, but the PS1 games are not like that. So this is the last crystal that we need to get in this warp room before the next boss. So this is Bye Bye Blimps. This is the first plane level. The way the plane levels work is that you have like a certain number of things you need to destroy. In this level, it's 7 blimps. Aiming in these levels can be a little awkward because there is no crosshair. So the movement in here is kind of odd. It's actually very different from the way they handle it in the remake. If you're neutral, you will always center back to like this position. So you kind of just like get onto like the correct plane you want to be to destroy these blimps, and then just like let go of direction and then just let the game take care of it. But the precision can be a bit weird, and aiming is also rough because again there's no crosshair. And it can you can burn a lot of time just trying to position yourself correctly. Like I'm probably bleeding a lot of time here just trying to break these crates. Also, I'm mashing square, which is why I'm doing this like barrel roll with Coco. Whenever you do a barrel roll, it gives you some invulnerability, so you just don't get eaten alive by the fire, like the enemy fire. The floor like deloaded there for some reason. All right. So before we clean up this warp room, we have to do the 4th boss fight, which is Engine. This boss fight is really cool. This is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best boss fights in the series, if not the best one. Yeah, so in this fight, you have to take down Engine's gigantic robot, and you're fighting him on the moon, and it's just like a Star Fox clone or something. I think this fight is awesome, just in setup, just scale. Those arm cannons can really eat away your health if you let them hit you, so it's good I destroyed them early. That was an extremely good first phase. By the way, this fight has 2 phases.
It really was nice.
Yeah, that was actually wild. I don't think I've ever done it that fast.
That's the best one I've ever seen.
So this second phase has 7 hits as opposed to 5, and it's a bit harder to hit Engine because he's just like weaving back and forth like this. You also have more firepower with Pura now assisting Coco. I don't think that does anything aside from being aesthetically really awesome. Yeah, that was really good. That might have been my best Engine ever. Yep. So the power-up we get for Engine is the Fruit Bazooka, which casually is probably like one of the coolest power-ups and like one of the most powerful. In the context of the speedrun, we will probably not use it too much just because it takes a lot of time to pull out and use, but it will see some use in the run for sure. All right, so we have 2 more relics we have to get in this warp room there. Bye Bye Blimp's relic and Future Frenzy's relic. This is definitely one of the more straightforward time trials. It's really just lining yourself up and then letting the plane take care of the balloons, or the blimps. All right, 38 is really good. I was actually just saying earlier today how like I'd been messing up the movement in this time trial a lot, and I got like a 44-second time a few days ago. So that was really nice for that to be a 38. 38 is generally a good relic here. All right, one more time trial here. It's Future Frenzies. The reason I left Future Frenzies for last is because I want to have 2 masks going into the next warp room. It's not as crucial as it would be. I didn't even know what button to press there. I never get button glitch in this warp room. I think the correct one's Tomb Waiter. But
It is.
yeah. Doesn't matter. This is not a particularly hard time trial.
That 5 glimpse was 8 frames from the dev time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I want to leave this with 2 masks. It's not super important. It just makes the next level a bit nicer. Should be a 3rd mask coming up here. Another use of the Death Tornado Spin just being really nice. And that is all of Warp Room 4, so we will be going on to the 5th Warp Room, which is the last Warp Room to have crystals, but there will still be some other stuff in Warp Room 6 we have to take care of afterwards. So the first level is Flaming Passion. From a platforming perspective, this is probably my favorite level in the game, like just out of the platformers at least. This one actually doesn't have a single mask crate in it, so there's no invincibility I can get, at least on the first pass. There are masks in the time trial. So masks here are mostly just insurance and allowing me to safely do some nitro bounces in the bonus. Otherwise, this is the one level that has a death route, but also does not do a 1 cycle, so it's very important I don't die here. So I'm going to play this a little safe, because if I die, I have to reset the level, because the death route will go away. Once I step on the death route, though, it's mine. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
The difference on this death route is that it actually brings you back to the level at the end.
Yeah. And it doesn't put you that much farther. All it does is put you ahead of that crate that I just shot with the bazooka. And shooting the crate just means I don't have to backtrack for it or get it and then backtrack to the death route platform. Also, shoutouts to the best character in Crash Team Racing Nitro Field, the Iron Checkpoint crate.
Nice.
Actually, it's the 2nd best character after Coco. So yeah, this death route has the green gem. I've recently started to call this the Piston It Away of Crash 3. There's a very similar level in structure in Crash 2 called Piston It Away. It's level 21. It's very similar, at least in a speedrun setting, because it's the first level you do in the 5th warp room. It is a level with a death route, so you have to not die. And it's not a level that I would really consider like super hard, but it's just like very punishing to mess up. And casually, it's a hard level. Like it's just it's a trait that those 2 levels share. All right, so this bonus has a lot of nitro, so this is going to be a lot of nitro bouncing if I do it correctly. Okay, that one went well earlier today, and it like never does that. That one usually goes well. Yeah, so a gimmick with with 2 of these Warp 5 levels is that they have nitros but no nitro detonator, and the reason they did that is they want you to use the bazooka. But again, the bazooka is a bit on the slow side, so we don't want to use it if we can help it. So just doing nitro bounces there and damage boosting on the nitros means I just can get every crate without having to use the bazooka. do the time trial. Again, this is mostly for the sake of replenishing masks. Warp 5 actually probably has the most rigid route out of all of the warp rooms. The order you do these levels pretty much stays the same regardless of what happens. Even if you take a straight hit, it's still better to just do the route as is instead of like trying to replenish masks. It just doesn't really come up. So whereas like stuff like the previous 4 warp rooms could be flexible, I pretty much know what I'm going to do every time. This is also a level where the Death Tornado spin shines, because you can just fly through a lot of this harder stuff. Also, a very subtle thing is you can body slam through the lower portion of those, trampolines, I guess. I don't think they're actually supposed to be trampolines. I'm just drawing a blank on what the actual word is. So 2 masks now, we will go into Gone Tomorrow, which is the second future level. In 105%, this level has the longest first pass, I believe. And that's just because you essentially have to do the level twice in the first visit because of just the way it's structured. It'll make sense as I go through it.
That jump path is a long backtrack.
Yeah.
Also a nice dev time.
That was the dev time, nice. Yeah, clearly the devs did not intend for the neutral slide spin to be, or neutral slide jump to be powerful or to exist really. It does trivialize a lot of the time trials. Which is really nice because like one of the things I always find frustrating in some Crash games is when like single mistakes can, cost minutes. And like that is definitely a thing with the time trials in Crash 3, but most of them are trivial enough that it's not a major threat for the majority of the run. So a lot of this run does feel pretty chill compared to other Crash games, which I like. That being said, the places where you can lose time are huge. Yeah. Also, I intentionally left some crates behind there because I will be coming back to this part of the level. I will also be skipping this checkpoint because checkpoints are very sparse in this level, and given the way I want to do it, I'm trying to minimize the amount of time I lose if I take a death. That being said, taking a death here will still be a huge amount of time lost, so I'm going to try and not do that. Again, I will be coming back for these crates. It's actually really important that I don't break those crates. I will break that checkpoint though. Kill this spark bot. This one out also, or I will try to and hit it anyway, which didn't really make a lot of sense, but okay. Yeah, so this green jump path is honestly rather short. It has this section that I can't jump on crates apparently. The momentum in Crash 3 when you're in the air is very weird. It's more akin to how you move in Crash 1 compared to Crash 2. Crash 2's air movement is very crisp. And it's definitely something that you have to get used to when running Crash 3. Especially for like levels that are very heavy on platforming like Tomb Raider. Alright, so I have 49 here. And there are 5 crates here. That top crate got spawned in by that exclamation crate at the end of the gem path. Also of note, we're at the beginning of the level again, which is why this first pass is so long. We have 54, so that is correct. Go ahead and break that checkpoint now, so if I die, I'm not losing as much time as I would have if I had broken it sooner. And then this TNT has crates below it that I needed to make sure were spawned in. They also got spawned in with the exclamation crate at the end of the gem path, so if I had broken that TNT early, they would have been impossible to get. Alright, I tried to do a spin bounce there, didn't get it, so I'm just going to play the rest of this bonus safe and use the bazooka. Better than trying to nitro bounce. I think that is the last we will be seeing of the bazooka, probably.
I really like how in that bonus there's noticeable darkening on the walls behind the explosive crates.
Oh, I actually never noticed that. Alright, there are no checkpoints for the remainder of this level, so it would be very nice if I didn't die, because that will take me back to the beginning of the side-scrolling section. miss out. It's just a very annoying cycle. Oop, okay. And also, I'm gonna play this level safe too. You can death tornado spin around that guy, but if I do it wrong, I will die, so, you know. I already lost enough time in the first half of this run, so I'd rather just lose the few seconds than have to do the entire middle portion of that level again. All right. So we'll be going right back into Gone Tomorrow's time trial. This has to be probably the coolest time trial, just because it has 2 triple masks in it. So you just fly through this if it's done correctly. It can, however, also be pretty tight if it's done incorrectly. So hopefully we do it correctly. That's definitely the most treacherous part of this time trial down. The 3rd mask is very early in this side-scrolling section, and it lasts through the entire portion of it. So. Here we go. Actually moves so quickly through that section that the triple mask ends early, because once you touch that platform, it just stops. But conveniently, they put another mask right at this last portion, so we get to finish the level with triple mask.
For the future level time trial, 3rd mask forms are slightly ridiculous.
They're definitely really powerful.
Especially here.
Yeah. All right, so we have one more level, or one more platforming level. And this is Bug Light, and this is home to the, okay, I just missed the button entirely. This is home to the 2nd hardest one cycle and the hardest strat that I go for on a regular basis. I practice this level basically every time I boot up this game, and even then it can still go wrong, so we'll see how that goes. But that's for the 2nd visit. The 1st visit isn't too bad. This beginning is probably like the worst part. But with these masks from Gone Tomorrow, I can just clear through this section. This is the one level that has like the dark firefly gimmick that they introduced in Crash 2. It's used in 2 levels there, and it's a successor to like the dark gimmick from Crash 1 with the mask. This is the only level in Crash 3 that uses the gimmick. This movement has been on the sloppy side, but that's fine. Also, something most people probably remember from their childhood is just this stack of 3 masks that they give you, and it just lets you fly through this section. Yeah, so the gem path we passed, as we were doing all the triple mask movement, is the multicolored gem path. It is something that they have in the 25th level of both Crash 2 and Crash 3. To complete it, you need all 5 colored gems, which I do have at this point, and that was one of the reasons that Flaming Passion was the opening. That was probably the biggest reason Flaming Passion is the opening level of this warp room, since it has the last colored gem, the green gem, and you need it for Gone Tomorrow and Bug Light. I'm gonna try and do a damage use here. This should keep this door open. And at this point, I do not need these masks at all. There's only one more use of masks in the run, and it's, well, okay, there's like technically 2, but one where I'm gonna heavily use the masks as part of the strategy, and it's gonna be in the next time trial, so. All right. This next one cycle is very tight and requires very precise movement for the first half of it, so I'm just gonna really hope it goes well. If not, then it's nothing new, really. So the gold time here is 1:34.86, and this is an extremely cycle-heavy level. This is a level where zigzagging is extremely important. So I reset trial there to make sure I know what the cycles are doing. And now I'm going to focus. I got some stutter there, so I'm just going to try again. This is also like a really rough one cycle to do at the very end of the run when you're probably fatigued from the movement. So it's rough.
These fireflies are timed so that one would normally run out right when you get to the next one, so the overlap shows how much faster the movement
That's
is.
really bad. Yeah, this one's also not going to work. I'm going to try it one more time. This is also one cycle where the inputs really like to fight with you, and if they don't work, then it can just go poorly. This one probably is not really going to make it either, but if it doesn't, I'll just finish it and then restart the trial. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish the time trial. I cannot make the one cycle now. I needed that mask, but I'm going to burn too much time trying to constantly reset it, so I'm just going to do the level and then reset the trial. The mask was very important because okay, well I got hit. No, we can try it again. Honestly, if any level was going to go wrong, it was this one, so I'm not really that upset about this one. This is, again, just very hard. Okay, this one might be fine. This one is looking a lot better, so if I can make these last two door cycles, then we're good. Or this last door cycle particularly. All right. That's the hardest part out of the way. I still need to use this mask in a particular spot. Hopefully at this point we're good, but it's not entirely out of the way yet. As far as time goes, we're probably fine. I just need to not die. Behind, so I'm gonna have to go fast here. Right, we should be fine. Usually if I get like a 120 to 122 on that platform, we're good. All right, there. Took a few tries, but I got it, so I'll take that. That is very, very hard. And when it's like one of the last levels in the run, it is very rough. But yeah, that is the last of platforming. All we have left is to clean out about 5 vehicle levels. But there's still a lot of interesting stuff going on in these levels, so even though it's not platforming, I don't really think it's boring. So, like, if that's like one of the worst aspects of the run is that Broadway one cycle, I'll take it. Because that is one of those things where you just kind of have to accept the fact that it will just go wrong at times. All right, so this is Orange Asphalt. This is the 3rd motorcycle level. This one is significantly easier than Road Crash. It is also the only one that you don't intentionally one cycle. The one cycle just doesn't save a huge amount of time compared to the other two. Unfortunately, I missed that crate, so we're going to one cycle it anyway. It doesn't make a huge difference whether or not you one cycle it, so you just try and get every box on the first pass, and if you fail it, then you just one cycle the level, because that would be faster than just resetting the level. going to try and get a whole skip here. All right.
Nice.
And doing that lets me carry this turbo for way longer than they ever intended. Unfortunately, okay, well, I lost the turbo right in front of another one. That car was just in a very awkward position. Yeah, again, so like the hang 'em high deaths and the bug light resets and you know that weird floor despawn in Boneyard, again, it shows how volatile this category can be. It's a very cool category, but you have to go into it accepting that you will just lose minutes and you're not always going to match your PB. It's just not realistic to anticipate that, which is why I set my estimate so high. Like having a 13-minute window to work with was very, very nice. I'm gonna try a few more hole skips here. If I fail them, it's not really a big deal because winning this race is extremely generous. But I did get them, so we're good. I actually would rather do them in this pass than in the relic, because in the relic, if you fail those, you have a very high chance of failing the relic. So now I can just one cycle the relic and not have to worry about any of the hole skips. So I'm going to slow down a bit here. The reason I missed this crate is that I was trying to do some fast movement where I keep the wheelie while also breaking those crates. It's not super hard, but it is like a bit easy to flub, and I just happened to in that instance. So to err on the side of caution, I'm just going to take some things safe here again. This is a very generous level overall. So again, I'm just going to slow down a bit here so I don't hit this car. Also, fun fact, you can actually lose the race and still get relics, but ideally you're not going to lose the race anyway. I actually have to cut my turbo here, because if you go too fast on these ramps, it is very possible to miss these crates. Sometimes you just miss them anyway. I'm really glad that didn't happen there. That happened earlier today while I was practicing. It was not fun.
That second ramp is particularly troublesome.
Yeah. Like, as long as you're not in a turbo, you usually hit it, but sometimes you just don't. Well, the rest of this should be pretty clean. I'm going to drop the turbo here again. Again, I'm just being safe. This turbo here will give me enough speed to go over this ramp and also not fall into this hole, which lets me get this crate. And then from here, I just need to get these last few crates here.
Falling into that hole actually spawns you past the box,
Yeah, that too.
as I learned to my dismay many times.
Yeah, very, very rude of them when you really think about it. All right, so the last level in this warp room is Mad Bombers. It is the second plane level. Casually, I believe it is a pretty widely disliked level, and I understand that. It is, much like Road Crash, just very hard. In the speedrun setting, I actually think it's really cool, though. It is much more heavy on cycles compared to Bye Bye Blims, and that makes the strats for it really awesome. Also, I'm one of the 3 people on the planet who really likes the song in this level that we probably can't hear anyway because of the sound effects. I'm just a big sucker for marching sound. So the way the cycles that these moving planes go on is completely consistent, so the route I'm following to break them as quickly as possible is a set route. But again, the targets are moving, and it is very easy to go off the cycle if you're just a little bit slow. Also, this route is fairly risky because I break all of the crates with health in them very early. So like that one right there that the plane is flying past right now, that is the last health crate in the level. So at this point, I would like to not take a huge amount of damage because the enemy planes in this level deal way more damage than they do in Bye Bye Planes. So if you are not careful, it is very easy to just like see your health just disappear. One thing that is very nice that Naughty Dog did when making these levels is that they programmed the enemy fighters so that they will only shoot at you when they are directly in front of you and facing you, so they can't blindside you from behind. Which is very nice because you don't have to worry about just getting straight hit by something you can't see. Alright, that's the last level, or that's the last gem in the level. The last crate for the gem in the level, I can speak. And yeah, that was actually a very good first pass of Mad Bombers.
Yeah, that sort of is also the last gem in the level.
Yeah. It's not like Spyro though, there's only like usually 1 or 2 gems per level. I was playing Spyro last week, so maybe that's why I got confused. All right, so we're gonna enter the final boss, but we're not gonna actually fight him yet. This is just gonna bring back all of the level buttons because we still need to do Mad Bomber's Relic. So yeah, we're just gonna enter there. Cortex is just gonna groan because he's so mad at me for messing up Bug Light 1 cycle, and then we're just gonna leave. Yeah, so we will be coming back to the fight with Cortex at the very end of the run, because this is the last thing we do. So much like the first pass, this second pass follows a very specific route to get the best cycles. You break the clock and then you immediately turn around, and then when this plane to the left goes off screen, you can start gunning for it. This is also a level where braking is very useful. You can hold down or just like lightly tap X to slow crash down. That's very nice because if you hit one of these like big planes, you can get thrown in the other direction, and that can just really mess up cycles. Looking good so far. I consider any time trial here that's sub 120 to be very good. So we'll see how that goes here. Sometimes the hits like to not register on these propellers on these big planes, but that seems to not be the case right now. This has been a very solid Mad Bombers. Unfortunately, I'm getting massacred. Should still be fine though. Solid.
Very nice.
I got a 115 immediately before this run earlier, so the Mad Bombers have been very good for me today. If you go even slightly slow in this time trial, though, you can see yourself having like a 135 or higher. And the goal here is like 155, which sounds really generous, but when you just get off the cycle, it can be a lot of time you're losing. All right, so that's actually everything in the 5th warp room. So all we have left are the last 3 levels in the 6th warp room. We've already taken care of 29, which was the alternate entrance to Future Frenzy. 27 is the alternate entrance to Hang 'em High, which we skipped with Yellow Gem early, so we don't have to worry about that. So all we have left are 26, 28, and 30. It's technically optimal to start with 30 just for better warp room movement, but 30 is a really cool level to end on, in my opinion. So just for the sake of the marathon, I'm just gonna end on it. It's like a couple seconds slower at best to end on it. All right, so this is Area 51. This is the last motorcycle level. This one is completely in the dark, and you are racing UFOs. This is a very, very hard level, but conceptually it's, like, honestly, like, just doing this level fast is, I think this is one of the coolest levels. But it does require a good bit of focus, so I'm gonna try and pay attention. The gold relic here, I believe, is a 149.
Yep, 149.80.
Yeah, so none of the levels in Warp Room 6 have crystals, so the ones like this where like you would get a crystal as like a reward for winning, for example, you're awarded a gem instead. So there's a gem for winning, a gem for getting all the crates, and then there's a gem for not falling into the hole like that. I think I can still make it even with that, so.
I believe.
Yeah, I did fall in the hole earlier today and barely made it, so as long as the rest of this is clean, I think we'll be fine. There's honestly also a reason to do this level first, is that this is of the 3, this is the one that's like the easiest to mess up and have to revisit. And once you get every gem and relic, even if you don't get a gold relic, if you get a sapphire relic, every button is locked out and I have to enter Cortex again to get them back. So I would rather just do this one first in case something like that happens. Okay, that's cool, man. Should be good at this point. Yeah, this is the end of the race. Notice how close I was to not passing that UFO, that last UFO for first place for one mistake. That is how tight these racing levels can be. The only one that's generous is Orange Asphalt. But thankfully we did get the gold relic there, even though it didn't show up on the screen. It showed up for like a split second. All right, so next up is Ski Crazed. If you spend about 5 minutes in my chat on any given day, I don't even have to be playing this game. I could be playing something else. I might not even be playing a Crash game. Spend about 5 minutes in my chat. You will understand how much I hate this level in this run. Casually, I think this level is really cool, but in the speedrun, I think this is by far the worst level in the entire run. I reset the clock there, not because it's fast, but because it makes the waves here very consistent, and now I can like kind of anticipate him. The waves are at their worst in this level, because it is very easy to fly over crates on ramps, and the one cycle time here is not generous. The gold relic is 50-50, and it is very easy to just bleed time if something like that happens. All right, we're gonna roll with it.
There are much worse things the waves can do to you in this.
Yeah, that was actually very, very minor. Honestly, the worst thing that's going to do is that now the waves are kind of on a cycle that I'm not entirely familiar with, so we'll see how it goes. Incidentally, if I had not left Tell No Tales with 2 masks, I would have done Area 51 in this level sooner to try and replenish masks for Future Frenzy. All right, that is one of the worst ramps. It's very easy to go over that second crate, so I'm glad it didn't happen there. This is also one of the worst ramps. I slowed to an absolute crawl there because if you have any amount of acceleration on that ramp, you're gonna fly over that crate. And getting back behind that ramp is actually horrible. Like, the one side of the ramp is just blocked off for no reason. At this point, the time is probably gonna stay frozen unless I miss a crate. So you might be wondering, it's like, oh, well, this level seems really long. He's at 38. How can he possibly do this with just like 12 more seconds to spare when the time's not frozen? There's just that many time crates in this level. But also, it's like, they only really stack up if you don't miss any of them. If you miss any of them, it takes a lot of time to go back and grab them, especially if they're on a ramp like this, and that's where the time can just bleed really quickly. Also note, this level is very long. To fail this one cycle is like a 2-minute time loss. So this level is annoying enough that a lot of people just do it early on, even though it's technically optimal to do it at the end. All right, we should be good at this point, really. We're at the end of the level, and I don't think this clock is unfreezing.
That row of ramps with the nitro detonator at the end. It's not uncommon that the waves will launch you over one of the boxes somewhere along that way.
And the ramp with the 4, you actually have to do a backflip there in order to get the 4th crate, usually, unless you're really lucky. But yeah, so that was a first try Ski Craze. I don't even care that it took me 4 tries to do Bug Light. The Ski Craze went right the first time, and I consider this run an absolute victory. All right, we have one more level after this, and then the final boss, and we are done. So this is Rings of Power. This is a 3rd plane level, but it is a race. And as weird as it sounds, this is probably my favorite level in the game, which is why I love ending on it. So every time you do a spin through these rings, you get an even bigger speed boost than you would normally. So you just fly through this level. Also, the gold time in this level is a 101.43. I will remember that forever because one time the Crash Bandicoot wiki was wrong and said it was a 101.46, and I failed the time trial because of that in the run. So I will always remember. Thank you, Bandipedia, for lying to me. It's slowed in a little bit here just because these last few rings can be very tight to go through while also breaking all the crates. It's very easy to miss one of them. And at this point, I have a lot of room just to work with. And that is Rings of Power. That is the last level in the game, and all we have left are to get the last gem from Coco, which we will get for having all 30 gold relics. And then just the final boss. So you can see that all of the buttons are just not spawning in anymore. That is a sign that you have collected everything and you are about to do the true final boss fight. Alright. So grab this gem from Coco. I now have 104%. The last percent is going to be from the power-up we get for beating Cortex. This fight is more or less an auto-scroller, but I do think it's a really cool one, just in terms of like atmosphere with like just the song and the setup. You know, like you're fighting Cortex while Aku Aku and Uka Uka are fighting each other. Oh yeah, this game has a plot, by the way. It kind of just takes a back seat because like that's just how Crash games usually are. The plot of this game is that after the end of Crash 2, the destruction of Cortex's space station accidentally frees Uka Uka, who's the evil mask, and he's the twin of the good mask that's been helping you the whole run. And they're trying to travel through time to collect all the crystals and gems that were lost after Crash 2, and that's the plot of the game. It's just you're trying to stop them. Yeah. The way they move in this pattern is completely set, so if I just hug specific spots, I won't get hit with them. The only thing that's really random about this fight is the way Cortex throws these mines. These placements have not been particularly kind. And sometimes it can be really weird to spin Cortex into the hole, and if you take too long, Uka Uka will just make him safe again. You have to do that phase over again. In this section, Aku Aku and Uka Uka will always attack where you are, so you just bait them into a specific corner and then just wait, and then get out of the way. Timing is coming up when I close the prompt that pops up for getting the last power-up, by the way. And time.
Nice.
105%. Yep. 2:16:52. Take off about 6 seconds because I started on the menu. Yeah, and then in about another minute 15 for the sound effects. Yeah, considering what went wrong in the run, that sounds about right. And honestly, this game has been giving me a lot of grief for the past few weeks, so I will take that. I think that was a pretty good run overall to showcase. All right, I'm gonna let this ending play out a little bit just because I think it's really cool. But yeah, that was Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you watched this run and would really like to learn it, now would be the perfect time. This is actually a really active category right now. I think it is the second most active Crash game at the moment behind the Insane Trilogy. So there's a lot of runners playing it right now that could give you a lot of help. Join the Crash Bandicoot Discord to just ask questions there. The link is on the speedrun.com leaderboard. If you want to watch me play every Crash Bandicoot game under the sun, if it has Crash Bandicoot in its name, I've probably run it at some point. You can follow me at RicoKSB on Twitch. That's just also all of my socials. Shout outs to Stump for helping me with the commentary. Be sure to follow him as well. If you want to shout out your Twitter, Stump.
Yep, I'm Stump230 on both Twitch and Twitter.
Yep. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the marathon. Thank you so much for having me. I will be back in about a little over 24 hours for another PlayStation game, but until then, be sure to watch most of the runs coming up. There's a lot of really cool ones just immediately after this. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you guys keep watching.